Hey yo, what's good reader fam? Welcome back to my channel. Today is the first Manga Monday book club meeting for My Hero Academia. If you don't know what Manga Monday book club is, I will leave a link to more information down below in the description, but basically it's a bi-weekly book club on my channel where we talk about manga. Our first pick was My Hero Academia Volume 1, and we're going to be discussing this today. And our next pick is going to be Death Note Volumes 1 and 2, or just Volume 1 of the Black Edition. We'll be discussing this on July 29th, but we'll also be discussing it leading up to that discussion on Goodreads. So I will leave a link to all that information down below in the description. So we're going to be discussing Volume 1 of My Hero Academia today in full. As this is a book club meeting, there will be tons of spoilers. There will be spoilers everywhere. So if you haven't read My Hero Academia yet, I would go check it out, read it, and then come back and discuss with us. If you want to get a little taste of what the story is, let me fill you in a little bit. Our story follows our main character, Izuku Midoriya, who lives in a world where superheroes are a normal thing. He desperately wants to become a superhero, but the thing is, he does not have any abilities. One day, he has an encounter with one of the world's most popular superheroes, and it changes his path in a very drastic way. We are now going to be jumping into the discussion, so if you have not read this book yet, go read it, then come back and discuss with us. Let's get into it. Before anything, I want to just talk about the world a little bit. In this world, 80% of people have quirks and only 20% don't. I would not want to fall into that 20%. No, thank you. I want to be special. I want to have an ability, but knowing how many people in the world have superhero abilities, it makes me wonder like what the rest of the world looks like. We really only see Japan. It makes me wonder if we'll ever see other hero academies from around the world. Like maybe they team up with another school to take down a villain, or there's some kind of worldwide superhero Olympics where they go up against each other, but then there's also a villain that comes into play and they have to take down the villain. I know that at some point UA does hold some kind of competition for their students, but I think it would be really cool to have like a worldwide one. I also really wonder if we'll ever learn how quirks really came to be, because in the book, it just says that the cause was unclear. Are we just gonna be kept guessing? Will it forever be a mystery? Because I can't have that. No. I need to know how it all happened. I also really wonder what it was like during this time when quirks were coming into play. What was it like seeing the world being reshaped to where quirks are now a normal thing? Was there an outrage? Was it a situation where the people with quirks were feared as monsters? Or was it just like a natural evolution? I feel like there had to have been some kind of kickback, because normally abnormal things in our world are scrutinized, as we see in our society today. I'm guessing because there were so many that at some point they had to be like, okay, we're gonna accept this, but we've got to figure out a way to kind of contain it a little bit, because it would be madness if there was no system set into play. It makes sense that the crime rate would just skyrocket and the government would be like, so how do we take care of this? Oh, the people in the world have superhero abilities. Why don't we bring superheroes into play? What an idea. Though it's interesting because not all with quirks are able to like take on being a superhero, which makes sense if 80% of the world has quirks. That would be too many superheroes clogging up the system. What I'm really curious about are the people who have quirks but didn't go on to become superheroes. Are they able to use their quirks in their everyday life or at work? Or is it restricted? I mean, surely they're able to use their quirks. How would the government even be able to monitor something like that when there's so many quirks? Also, because of the fact that it's 80% of the world, that must mean that each government has a different system in play. I'm going crazy the more that I think about this. Also, how long ago did this happen? I clearly need more information over here. I like to be in the know, and I'm currently in a field of questions, trying to find answers that aren't there. I'm also really curious about the whereabouts of the first quirk-born child from China. Where did they end up? Because of the fact that we don't know when the world kind of reshaped into this quirk-filled world, we don't know how long it's been since that first-born quirk child. So we don't know if that first-born quirkling is around or not still. I mean, they're probably long gone now, but who knows? Maybe they took their quirk in an evil direction and now they're the ultimate villain that they have to take down in this series. I'm already coming up with theories for the end of this series, and it's only volume 1. This is going to be a long journey. I'm curious to know what you guys think of the world, so let me know all your thoughts down below in the comments. So we have our main character Midoriya, and he full on has everything that I love in a character. He's an underdog, but he doesn't really let that hold him back in any way. He researches heroes left and right, holding on to the hope that someday he might get his quirk. And he got his quirk, but we're not there in the discussion yet. He also just like emits the traits of a hero from a very young age. At age 4, he's already going up against bullies, which in a lot of ways they resemble villains. They're Bullions. Midoriya comes across a fight with Kamui and this dinosaur-like villain. I found that we had some great little world building within that fight, which I found really interesting. For example, at one point, Kamui kind of spews out at the villain being like, "You're illegally using your power during rush hour." Another aspect of Midoriya's character that really shines through is the fact that he's a fanboy, like a full-on fanboy for the superheroes. It could have easily come off as really obnoxious, but I found it super endearing. Sure, he does flail over them, but he dedicates so much time to learning about their abilities and focusing focusing in on how they fight, which we see the effects of that later on, how that does kind of come in the long run and help him out. I love how it's like brave individuals took up the mantle of heroes straight out of comic books when they themselves are in a comic book of sorts. Trippy, man, trippy. So we find out that Midoriya is a third year and he's kind of starting to look into his future. Pretty much everyone in his class wants to be a superhero, including Midoriya, even though he's quirkless. We're introduced to Bakugo, who is a character who is just very sure of himself. He's very confident in his ways. He's a character that I still just don't know how I feel about. I mean, I didn't like him right off the bat, that's one thing I'll say. Where Midoriya has all these personality traits that I love, Bakugo has all these personality traits that I despise. I feel like there's gotta be more to his character that we just haven't seen yet. I need to see more of his personality, I need to see more of his backstory to fully get an understanding for his character. But I'm just not big on people being really into themselves, and he is clearly very into himself. Like, if you're making statements like, I'll surpass All Might and become the best hero out there, clearly you think highly of yourself. And with a resume like All Might's, that's gonna be difficult to achieve. But I'll give you props for having big goals. It's just that to me, that's putting these huge expectations on yourself, and you've gotta be careful when you do that because it can come back and haunt you. I think it's interesting to see why different characters even want to become heroes, because every one of them has a different driving force. For example, Bakugo wanting to become a hero seems to stem from ambition. He doesn't seem to be necessarily in it for the people that he's saving or for taking down villains. He just wants to be better than the best of the best. Mind you, his motives could change, even though I doubt that they will because he seems to be pretty set in his ways. And also, just because you have a quirk doesn't necessarily mean that you want to go down the same path of becoming a hero. Not everybody wants to go out there and risk their lives on the daily. I hated how Bakugo just like rips open Midoriya's scar of him already knowing the fact that he's probably not gonna make it into UA because of the fact that he doesn't have a quirk. Like, he doesn't need you to tell him that he's quirkless. Like, he knows he's quirkless. Some would say that's Bakugo just being real with him, but I'm gonna call him out on being cruel. It'd be different if you took him aside and talked it out, but no, he makes it a class-wide discussion. I think one of my biggest problems with Bakugo is just that he takes things way too far. He's already humiliated Midoriya, and for what? For having a dream of becoming a superhero? Like, how dare he? How dare he have the same dream that everybody in the class has? But then he takes it a step further, takes Midoriya's hero analysis book and just chucks it out the window. What do you gain from doing things like this? You want to be a hero, but you're acting like a villain. And he literally makes a comment that alludes to him just wanting Midoriya to go off himself. He says, if you think you'll have a quirk in your next life, go take a swan dive off the roof. How terrible can he be, Bakugo? Pretty terrible, apparently. I feel like a lot of Bakugo fans are gonna come for me in the comments. You can stand up for him all you want, but you've got to admit the fact that he's a bit of a jerk. What do you think about Bakugo? Do you think at some point he might end up on the villain side, or do you think he'll always stay a hero? He's just got a bit of a dark side to him. I mean, I also think it would be really interesting if Bakugo and Midoriya kind of switched roles. Like, Bakugo just goes down this road where he ends up good, and Midoriya goes down this road where he ends up in this dark villainous situation. Now that'd be a jaw-dropping plot twist. So UA is one of the most popular superhero schools, and it's super difficult to get in. Despite Bakugo's discouragement, Midoriya is going for it. I love the little flashback scenes we get of Midoriya and his mom when he's growing up and he's like seeing all these superheroes on the TV and like rooting for them and just like studying everything about them. We learn that his dad can breathe fire and his mom can bring small objects toward her. I'm also just really curious about the dad. Like, where is the dad? I feel like that's something that could potentially come back into play later on in the story to kind of carry the story forward. At this point, we haven't seen the dad, so it feels like a very single mom situation. I will admit that there are a few things that happen in this volume that feel very convenient, like, oh, Midoriya gets attacked by a villain. It just so happens that All Might's the one that comes through and saves him. All Might can defeat villains left and right. Also All Might cannot ditch fanboy. Actual words out of Bakugo's mouth. Seeing him so full of stupid dreams like when we were kids just pisses me off. He's like one of those people on Twitter who farts on other people for liking things that he doesn't like, despite the fact that them liking that thing has no effect on him. But I guess you could say that karma comes through in the shape of a bottle with a villain inside. I'm a villain in a bottle, baby. Now that's a twist on a pop hit. All Might in his truest, most vulnerable state gets revealed to Midoriya, which if you want it to be revealed to anybody, you want it to be revealed to somebody like him. We learn that All Might can only use his ability for 3 hours, which really sucks, but it's like this because of an enemy attack that really just kind of messed up his quirk. It's so sad when Midoriya asks All Might if he has the potential to become a hero. He asks him if he can be a hero without a quirk, and unfortunately All Might does not give him the answer that he's looking for. On one hand, it is good that he didn't sugarcoat it and that he didn't go the Bakugo way and ripped him to shreds over the fact that he didn't have a quirk. He did it in a very non-Bakugo way, which I really appreciated, obviously. But yeah, on the other hand, it would really suck if you heard from your all-time favorite hero after dreaming for years and years to become a hero that, yeah, he doesn't think you can become a hero. The bottled villain that got got released on Bakugo is causing havoc, and all the heroes are a bit preoccupied and can't help out. World. 80% of people with quirks. Villains show up. All heroes preoccupied. Sorry. There's a part of me that loves Midoriya's willingness to kind of throw himself at a task, despite how dangerous it can be. And then there's the part of me that's like, what are you doing? You could die. But Midoriya sees that the villain has somebody, doesn't hesitate, and goes after them. I feel like even if he knew it was Bakugo that the villain had, he still would have ran after the villain, because that just seems to be his nature. I was shaking my head at the fact that Bakugo was getting all the praise in the end, and Midoriya got all the crap. Somebody make it make sense. It does not make any sense to me. While all you heroes were preoccupied with other things, Midoriya, who is quirkless, let me say it again, quirkless, he was over here risking his life for someone who was pretty much a villain in his own life. But go off, keep praising Bakugo, and then to top it all off, Bakugo has the audacity to be a jerk to Midoriya. He just saved your life and now you're being a jerk over the situation. Apparently you just can't win with Bakugo. All Might comes back at Midoriya with the plot twist of all plot twists. You can be a hero, Midoriya. You can be a hero. Suddenly my quirk is crying forever. All these people who have doubted him popped up in his mind as this is happening. And it doesn't even matter anymore because his favorite hero just told him that he could be a superhero. Not only that, but Midoriya is going to inherit his abilities. I really want to learn All Might's origin story. I feel like we'll probably learn it over time, but I feel like it deserves its own arc, like it deserves its own series. I not only want to see what it was like when he inherited his powers, but I want to see like all the adventures that he's been on, because you can't tell me that he has not been through nothing, because he has been through it. We learned that his quirk is called One for All, but we really don't know like the links of his power, so I would be really interested to learn like all that there is to know about his quirk. We just know that he's like super mega powerful. Then we have the training to take on the power, aka time for Midoriya to get buff, get swole. Not only is he getting some muscles, but he's helping the environment. We love an environmentalist. I did really like the reasoning behind All Might having him clean up the beach though. How most heroes are searching for fame and glory, when really the goal should be that you should help the earth in any way that you can. So he endures 10 months of training. I'd be a goner by the first week. It's all good, All Might. I'll just remain quirkless. I'll just say my quirk is reading. That's enough for me. We see Midoriya have a bit of a meltdown, and I really liked seeing that because he was really pushing himself over his limit. He was trying to go around All Might's plan to kind of get to his goal faster, which ended up catching up to him quickly and kicking him in the butt. I feel like that scene was just very relatable because I feel like in life we often kind of look for shortcuts for things. We're always looking for a way to get to our goal faster. So this was kind of a good reminder that sure, you can take shortcuts in life. There's no problem with that, but it's beneficial to have a plan and work towards something rather than rush it. In the end though, he ends up cleaning up the beach without a speck of trash. I think Midoriya should open a cleaning service to get a little extra cash money on the side. Even when Midoriya achieves something like this situation, he's like, wow, All Might, you did this. And sure, All Might did help him train, but Midoriya was the one putting in the work. Give yourself some credit, bud. I love that all he has to do is eat a piece of All Might's hair and bam, he's inherited his abilities. Of course, this had my mind going into this like what if situation. What if All Might was out in public eating at a restaurant and one of his hairs fell into the person's plate next to him and they ate their meal and they ate his hair before this encounter with Midoriya, and now somebody out there has All Might's power. Of course, that's not what happened, but in my mind I was like, what if this happened? That would be crazy. Me and my unrealistic theories. We've got the UA entrance exam at the UA High School, which is the most popular hero course in the country, and only 1 in 300 applicants are chosen. No pressure, none at all, except no, all the pressure, ultra pressure. I love that the selling point of the school is not only that they've got All Might, Endeavor, but they've also got the guy who's won the Best Genius Award 8 years in a row. I low-key want to cosplay the Genius though because the swag he exudes is unmatchable. So Midoriya is heading for the practical portion of the entrance exam. I love the panel where it's like, my first step becoming a hero, almost trips. Bless Uraraka coming through with her floating ability, or else he'd really not be taking a great step in becoming a hero. I love that when we first even see Uraraka, she's going out of her way to help somebody, which is a trait that I'm sure is going to stick with her. Sure, you could say, well duh, she's going to be a hero, so of course she's wanting to help other people. But not every student who is training to become a hero is like that. I love the panel right after Midoriya's interaction with Uraraka. It's like, I talked to a girl, and then right under it, it's like he didn't actually talk. So we get into the entrance exam, and basically they're gonna have to fight up against some villains. All they've gotta do is go up against the villains, use their quirks, and earn some points. Then we're introduced to Ida, who is one of my favorite characters. I do have a top 3 favorite characters outside of Midoriya, because of course he's like an ultimate favorite, but I have 3 outside of him. One is Ida, the other 2 have not been introduced yet. If you want to take a guess as to who they are, hit up the comments comments. I forget that he comes off as really intimidating when we first meet him, and that he pretty much tells Midoriya to shut up when they're getting the information for the entrance exam. You can tell that he takes his whole hero business pretty seriously. The entrance exam begins and Deku is a mess, rightfully so. Even though in the moment I knew he was capable of becoming a hero because he's mentally ready, like he's done so much research, he knows everything there is to know about being a hero, but physically, I wasn't sure if he was ready yet. He has no idea if the hair eating has taken effect yet, or even how to use his power when it does take effect. So he's kind of malfunctioning a little bit, the gimmick comes into play, and yet again we see Midoriya's self-sacrificing trait after he goes after the gimmick to help Uraraka. Everyone's running from the gimmick, even he does at first, but then he clenches his butt cheeks, lets his heart cry out, and punches the gimmick. He really gets that kickback when he goes up against that gimmick. Thank the stars, Uraraka came through again and saved his butt. Literally, apparently they're going back and forth saving each other's butts. I liked seeing how Ida was kind of thinking through everything that just happened because it reminded me what Midoriya's strongest trait is, and that's the fact that he just does not hesitate. When he sees a problem, he runs after it. He just throws himself into these situations, and that's a big part in being a hero. You can't really hesitate, you just have to go after it. Imagine this school without Recovery Girl. They'd have a graveyard of dead potential heroes. So Midoriya is convinced that he's not getting in, but he gets a letter. In it is a projection from All Might letting him know All Might is going to be a teacher at UA. Apparently rescue points were a thing, and now Midoriya is in. He trained to inherit All Might's quirk, and now he's got to train to use the quirk, and now he's got to train at the UA school. Lots of training happening here. I love that Midoriya was like, I hope Ida's not in my class, I hope Bakugo's not in my class. Open store, they're both in my class. But it is nice because Ida and Midoriya end up connecting, and Ida ends up apologizing for misjudging him. Do we feel like Bakugo and Midoriya will ever become friends? Or will they be on this playing field forever where they're kind of rivalries? I'm not super hopeful on this end, but this is apparently going to be a very long series, so who knows? There's room for character development. So Aizawa ends up being his homeroom teacher, and let me just say, he reminds me so much of Snape from Harry Potter. I don't know if it's the hair or the attitude, but the Snape vibes were present. On their first day, they're being tested on their quirks, which I know on one hand is kind of sucky for Midoriya, but I was kind of excited about it because it gives you an opportunity to see all the different quirks that the different students have. His Snapeness really comes through when he's all, the one with the lowest score across all 8 events will be expelled. That was not a very good Snape voice, but I read it in his voice. Even in his profile that All Might is reading, it states that he has expelled 154 students. Yikes ultra. If I were Midoriya, I'd be asking to transfer classes. We have all these events taking place, and we get to see all the different quirks that the different students have. During the throwing of the ball portion, Midoriya gets his quirk erased by Aizawa because he doesn't think he's able to control his quirk yet, which he's not wrong about that, but I hated how discouraging he was. Izuku Midoriya, you cannot become a hero with that power of yours. Like, at least believe in your student, at least encourage them to hone their abilities. So Midoriya was able to aim all his power into his finger and chuck the ball super hecka far. I really wish we could have kind of seen the interworkings of his mind during that moment and seeing how he was able to aim all his power into his finger. It brought me so much joy seeing how flabbergasted Bakugo was on the sidelines. After preaching left and right how Midoriya was a quirkless nobody, Midoriya showed up and said, quirkless nobody who? Okay, so maybe Aizawa isn't as nasty as Snape, considering he held back Bakugo from violently going after Midoriya. He's all, back you go, Bakugo. So I'll give him that. And he was lying about expelling someone, so another point for him not being like Snape. Little did he know I myself was putting Aizawa through a little test over here. He's got 2 points, so even still, I've got my eyes on you, Aizawa. Midoriya has to learn how to regulate his power or he's going to die, which comes as a shock to him, but to me, I'm like, yeah, that would make sense. Did you see what happened to your arm in the entrance exam? Imagine doing that over and over. It's gonna tear you up, bud. At the end of this volume, we're left really intrigued. We've got All Might as the supervisor, and there's going to be some battle training in the next volume, which I am looking forward to. Now that we've reached the end, I've decided to do a little bit of a Q&A towards the end of these videos, so I asked you guys to ask me some questions over on Instagram, and I'm gonna be answering them now. Do you have any similarities to Deku? I can't say that I'm fully like Deku, but I definitely have some similar traits to him. I know it's weird to call yourself a selfless person, but I feel like that's the way that I relate the most to Deku. I aim to be selfless and I do my best to be there for other people. I feel like I'm also similar to Deku in that I don't really give myself credit for things, but I mostly just see him as somebody to strive to be more like. What was your first impression of Deku and Bakugo? I loved Deku right off the bat. As I mentioned earlier, he's a character that has a lot of traits that I love. As for Bakugo, I hated him right off the bat. I'm hopeful that I'll come around to liking him, but at this point, I'm just not really feeling his character. All right, we have reached the end of the discussion discussion. Now it's time for you guys to run to the comments and let me know all your thoughts on this volume. How did you feel about the world? How did you feel about the characters, Bakugo and Midoriya specifically? How do you feel about their rivalry? Let me know all your thoughts down below in the comments. Again, our next meeting is July 29th and we will be reading Death Note volumes 1 and 2 or just the black edition of Death Note. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you liked this video, be sure to go and hit that like button. If you want to see more bookish content from me, be sure to go and hit subscribe or go and hit that bell icon and you'll be notified every time I post new videos. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope your day is bright and that tomorrow is brighter. Keep reading what your heart desires and I will see you soon with a new video. Bye-oh!